I have some bacon. Should have gotten this out earlier, but I did not, so. A little bit for, but there's like a shortcut for when you screw up like that. I package my bacon in these little, these bags that are made out of type of paper. What's it called? I can't think of it right now, but it's not wax paper. I've written about it before. It's a type of very compressed paper that they tend to use for food packaging, and you can just throw it out and not feel too guilty about it or compost it. Also, you gotta have some tank 7. You're gonna do this right, because you're gonna be making some southern fried catfish, some collard greens, and that's probably it, because that's about all I can take. This is the best day I've had in a while. That's why I feel like doing this. And I don't feel real good, but I think part of the reason why is because life is a little stressful right now. So, got me some Tank 7. That's kind of expensive beer. Or maybe all beer is expensive now. It's been a while since I got a 6-pack of good beer. But this is I like it. If I'm going to have some, this is one of the things I might have. All right, so let's see. I got to get my collard greens out. I got 2 bunches, and collards don't cook down. I plan on growing these, by the way, this summer. I love them. But anyway, collards don't cook down as much as some other greens. Like definitely spinach cooks down a lot. But one of the great things about collard greens is that they don't. And so 2 bunches is more than I would eat in one sitting, but that's okay because you can heat them back up again. So I'm going to rinse them off. They're organic, but I rinse everything off anyway. And then I cook them good. You never know. Oh, see, like I'm looking at here. Here's a little bug. Okay. So, and of course, you can eat some bugs. You just don't want to know about it. And then what I do is eventually I'll take scissors and cut it up. Oh, my cat's about ready to topple the beer. Let me point you in this direction. So my bacon isn't thawed, so I'm going to do my trick. I have this, well, let me put it in this smaller skillet. A friend of mine got me this great, it's called a Forever pan. I think it's reasonably safe. It's definitely nonstick, and it would be good for this purpose. So I just stick the frozen bacon in there, and then I put the lid on and turn it on kind of low, like maybe 3 or 4. I'll try 4. And it just thaws it out. It doesn't burn it. You just have to keep an eye on it. And in the meantime, I use scissors to just take bunches of the collard greens and just kind of like cut them up into whatever size you like. I don't like to leave them whole. That's a bad idea with collard greens because they're tough enough. Tough is the wrong word. They're firm enough that you wouldn't be able to like eat the spines. So like, and I do take most of the spine. The big base of it. I don't try to cook that. Like you could do that with Swiss chard, but with collard green, that part's really not going to work. So anyway, I get what I can this way. Then we just kind of compost the rest of that. Some people think this stuff is like too strong tasting, but I would say it's an acquired taste, and these suckers are robust. And if you were going to grow something, they're beautiful to grow, and they're tougher. So therefore, like they stand up to the weather and to bugs even better than some of the other greens. And they do love hot weather. So you could grow them continually. Like some greens will peter out. Definitely spinach will, and of course lettuces peter out when it gets hot. That's when the collard greens really start to get happy, actually. Oh. And if you cook them right, they taste great. I'm not super picky about things falling on the floor. So don't do that, I guess. So while the bacon's thawing, I'll go ahead and get the catfish out. That's pretty good. Yeah. All right. So unfortunately, like the catfish comes in plastic bags, so too bad about that. But I do love catfish, and we have caught them here in Kansas. We have catfish in our lakes, but they tend to be big. Seems like real big by the time you catch them. And catfish they can be pretty bony, and in other words, when I've caught them, that hasn't been the best catfish I ever had. This is, God knows, like it says that it's processed in China. Obviously, it would be better if I lived next to a fish market where I could get maybe farm raised catfish from somewhere in the United States where it's a little bit fresher. But as of now, there's a place in Kansas City that I've been thinking about going to I think it's called Murdoch's. But I'm not there right now. So, and I just absolutely love this. Sometimes I get in the mood for this. So anyway, I've got my 2 catfish fillets there. They look beautiful. And oh, by the way, catfish is good at like consistency wise, both like in texture as well as in flavor. You know how a lot of times you buy white fish and it tastes all fishy or doesn't taste like it's fresh. Catfish, for whatever reason, kind of like collards, it don't go bad very quickly. Okay, I don't know why. Anyway, that's partly why I like it. So I've got 2 different things here. I'm going to use both of them. So I just put a bunch of yellow cornmeal in a plate here. I would say maybe a cup, probably more than I needed. And I've got some Lowry's seasoned salt. There we go. Yeah. So I'm going to put, you got to do this to taste. This has salt, so you got to figure out how much of that you want to use or not use it at all. And then I have some homemade soul food seasoning. And I can tell you what's in that because I have my handy dandy recipe here. 2 tablespoons of ground red pepper flakes, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of dark chili powder, 1 tablespoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of thyme powder, and 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper. And again, maybe there's something in there you don't like, so you can always leave that out. But I like all of that. And I just make up a little batch at a time. And I'm going to put, oh, I don't know, maybe 2 tablespoons of that in there. And then I'm going to just mix it up with my fingers. I hear the bacon starting to, whatever, thaw-ish. So I'll turn the heat down a little bit because now it'll just kind of melt. All right, now, some people say you should coat your fish in egg and all that, but you don't have to. And that cuts down on whatever your costs now that eggs are so expensive. It's wet, okay? So I just dredge it in the cornmeal, not flour, cornmeal, and make sure I kind of pack it in there. You know, it'll soak up a little bit of the cornmeal. Then you can do it again. Get my other one here. This is fun. Motivated me to do this because I'm still not having my energy back. I had a little case of walking pneumonia and it's kind of kicked me a little bit. So I've been sitting around, but I really have this craving. So my body's trying to tell me something. And it said, eat catfish. All right. So I've coated them both. And now the easiest way to do this is really if you have an air fryer. If you don't, then baking it is like second best, especially if you have a convection oven. I don't like frying. Frying is messy and it smells up your place. So I just love my air fryer. And I got my little grill down at the bottom of it. So I don't even oil the bottom of this. I just stick the fillets in there. And if you want both sides to look good, you would oil the spritz of oil on both sides, but I just spritz the top of the fish. And the reason for that is because if you air fry stuff with just the coating and you don't spritz it with oil, it's going to come out looking powdery. It's going to be cooked, but it's going to come out looking powdery. And the coating's maybe not going to stick like it should. So it was olive oil, but you could use a different kind of oil. I'm using extra virgin olive oil, not the expensive stuff really, but just the stuff in a big old, I think it was like a 1-gallon can that I've been using for about a year. Okay. All right, then. So you see they're both laying in there. Now I'm going to put them on, let's see here, air fry, 10 minutes. And 390 is the automatic temperature, and that's fine. So I'm going to hit go. And really, that's about it for that. Like, I could check a couple of times, but it's not going to make much difference. The legs aren't very thick. 10 minutes is good for them. They were fully thawed. Okay, so right there. Okay, so let me look at the bacon. Yeah, it's on, so turn that off. And I've got this Dutch oveny thing here that I'm not liking as much as I thought I would, but that's mainly because everything sticks to it, it seems like. I'll spritz it a little bit, even though I'm putting like bacon in it, which you would think it would not be, but it does. So I'll put the bacon in there, about 3 slices of bacon, and I'm gonna fry that up first, and I'm gonna fry it until it's fairly crisp. Well, now I'm at a lull, so now it's time to have a little bit more of this tank 7. My hood light went out. I've got several things that have gone out, and I'm just going to deal with all of them at the same time, and that time is not yet come. And so, oh, that's too much light. It was a spring-like day here for the first time in a long time. That was really great. Like, I went outside today, strolled around the block with my dad, and it was 70 degrees out. My tongs. So there's very little else that you really absolutely need other than bacon and greens to make this, but also it really helps if you have a little bit of balsamic vinegar, not a lot, unless you really like it. This stuff here. Now you could substitute some other kind of vinegar, but like you could do red wine vinegar. But I just love the richness of the balsamic vinegar, and it's kind of like what's preferred, and I think, like from what I could tell, in Southern cooking, which is what we're doing here. Because my ancestors on my dad's side were Southern, I was from Kentucky. I grew up with quite a bit of Southern food. And Southern food has a very rich history, but a part of the heritage of Southern food is wrapped up for sure with soul food, and soul food and Southern food are almost one and the same, but this is, the origin of it all, and that's how we also learn these techniques. And a lot of the stuff is, that is preferred, the stuff that was originally grown, could grow, was easily available in the South in those hot climates, in using, inexpensive ingredients. At least they used to be inexpensive, and I guess relatively speaking, they still are. I'm starting to smell the fish. It's halfway through. So if you have an air fryer, a good time to check. If you're worried, it would be halfway through. Or even if you're cooking something that could be turned over, turn it over. But you don't want to turn over a thin fish fillet because it will just break apart at this point. So you should just leave it alone. You might check it to make sure it's not burning and needs to be stopped sooner, but I wouldn't turn it or jostle it around. So in the pan, bacon is starting to brown, and it's leaving a residue on the bottom of the pan, which is actually good in this case because that residue, that little burn, crusty stuff that's in the pan, it It's gonna be real useful once I take the bacon out. The greens are gonna love it, and it's all gonna come off the pan when I add a little bit of vinegar and liquid to the pan. Oh, and the other thing that you could use if you really want a umami kind of like yummy taste is to use some chicken broth. Actually, I might do that. Let me get what I prefer. So I get this better than bouillon stuff. And you get that in the soup aisle of your grocery store. And it's bouillon, chicken bouillon concentrate. And also they have a lot of other flavors. And the cool thing about this is it's a little glass jar with a metal lid. So, and not only is it like excellently tasty, and you can even drink it like as just broth, and you would love it. But also, it doesn't come in one of those cartons that's coated with plastic that can't be recycled at all, and or some sort of other egregious container. And that once you buy one of these, which costs really an outrageous amount right now, but no more than if you bought a bunch of like canned chicken broth or something like that. But I think it was something like $6 or $7 for this. But it's got 38 servings that could make 1 cup of broth. So I mean, you do the math. This is a way better deal than like any sort of canned or carton stuff. This is where I have to turn on my vent because the bacon's starting to like smoke a little bit. I'm going to let that happen because I want that bacon to be kind of crispy, which is not something you want to do every day. That's not actually good for people to have like all the time. But, I mean, cancer wasn't made in a day. So if you're not scarfing this shit down all the time, you should be okay. After all, what is life for if not for this? So, okay, I think the bacon is done. So I'm going to turn this off for a sec because this type of pan is made out of cast iron and it's going to keep the heat a long time. So I don't have to have that on right now. In fact, it'd be good to let it cool off a little bit because we're going to introduce the greens first. It's gonna sound like something terrible. I'll put the lid on that. I got the heat off. It's gonna wilt it down a little bit, and as the pan cools a little bit, then I can introduce a little bit of water with a little bit of this bouillon. And I don't even bother putting the two together. There's no reason for that. It's all going to end up mixed together anyway. So the faster method is just to take however much you want, no more than a teaspoon, I would say, because otherwise it would be too salty. Off the excess there. Oh, it's starting to cool down a little bit. I don't like putting cold water into a cast iron pan. Nothing's ever broken on me, but I just feel like it's not smart maybe to put real cold water or cold water into like a hot pan. Okay, so I'm going to take this much water. I filter my water with this Life Straw pitcher here. I'm sorry, but I live next to the National Biological something or other thing that replaced Plum Island's germ lab. So I always filter all my water. Okay, here we go. All right. Now I can turn the heat back on just a little bit. Turn it to like medium. And I'll let that cook down further. Guess I can probably take my vent off at this point. And while that's cooking down a little bit, I'm just gonna break up the bacon. It's been sitting on paper towels so it can suck up some of the grease because we don't need any more grease. Like one problem with Southern food and soul food is that it can be pretty bad for you. And while I do have a policy that sometimes it's not bad for you if you do it every once in a while, but if you do it every day. So, like, I just don't do this every day. And so that's why I put bacon in. But if you're really watching it, you could use like turkey bacon or chicken sausage or bacon or anything like that that will add that kind of flavor to it. Okay. But for me, I like the bacon, so I'm going to put that in there right now. All of it, except for I took off the little fatty ends. Somebody else can use those, actually, the garbage or the compost. And now the tongs come in handy again because it really helps grains cook if you kind of do toss them around a little bit and get them all wet. So you do that every once in a while and try not to make, I'm not making contact with my surface because I know I'll ruin it if I do. Oh, and then the vinegar, this is a matter of taste. So I would start out kind of without too, not too crazy. Not too crazy, but are you going to come off? There we go. I'm going to put in, oh, I don't know, half a tablespoon of it because I like it. And then since I have the broth in there anyway, I'm not going to salt it further until I get it to the table and taste it because it could become too salty. Compost plate because gotta get my tail back in the kitchen. Oh yeah, there's such a thing as cross contamination, and I don't totally worry about that. But when I wipe my hands on like raw fish and bacon on a towel, then after that, I decide I'm going to get another towel and replace this one. I don't think it's ever come back to haunt me that I'm not like super scrupulous, but again, you know, life is too short to worry about it too much, I guess. Mm. So the greens are cooking down, but collards they do take a while because they are more substantial and robust, and I believe healthier than a lot of other greens. So it's just going to keep cooking for a while, and let's see what happened with the fish here. Yes. Okay. Now, because it is fish and it is somewhat delicate, this tastes really, I mean, it smells good. It's going to taste really good. I try to get it out of there with some delicacy and because I really like, I mean, it's all the same, even if it breaks up, but I really like the look of it. Oh, it's going to break. Wait. Nope, I got it there. It was starting to, but I got it there. It's so beautiful. Like, in my estimation, there you can see. So it's golden brown. It's more fish than one person needs. But when it comes to something you really like, and Lent is coming up too, so I got to get it in there. Although fish is okay during Lent, probably eating two big old catfish fillets is a little excessive. Anyway, I'm going to let that sit there a little bit to cool off a little bit, and as they sit, they become a little less like crazy easy to break. So if you were trying to feed other people, you might want to let them sit. a little bit in the fryer before you even took them out. But they look quite glorious. And if you have some yum yum sauce or some cocktail sauce or tartar sauce, whatever it is you like with fish, is going to go extra super good with this fish. Oh, there's a little piece there. Oh, yeah. No need for more salt. It's perfect. A great deal of what's going on here is as I mix it, I'm mixing that broth in so that it gets thoroughly mixed up with the liquid in here. And these greens are steaming. And you do need to get your collard greens reasonably well done, unlike some other greens because of their firmness. You want your body to have a fighting chance here in dealing with these collard greens. And also, they just are going to taste a little bit better once they've cooked pretty thoroughly. So I'm going to let that go just a little bit longer. I am happy. I think I'm starting to feel better. I'm a happy cooker. I'm having to watch the news a lot lately, and I feel like, and I need to do that. I have to do that. Um, but I need to take holidays from it, and I just realized that cooking could be like a holiday. I do enjoy it. I hadn't really thought about it as a
Tomorrow in
therapeutic thing.
Manhattan, there will be intermittent clouds with a high of 58 degrees Fahrenheit
Oh.
and a low of 31 degrees.
It's going to get a little chillier, but still, that's pretty darn nice. I mean, 70 is kind of a fluke in the middle of February, so, well, maybe not so much of a fluke now. We can hope. That little glass of water was plenty of water, and there's going to be water left over. That's fine. You're just going to leave it behind. It's really steaming. You can see, hopefully, the steam coming out. This is good for that. Oh, the other thing that stirring does is it's going to dredge up all that crispy stuff that was on the bottom of the pan, and that's what is partly going to flavor. I put the extra bacon in there. If you wanted to save calories, you could not put, you could just use the bacon as the flavoring agent by using the crispy stuff at the bottom and the little bit of oil that's on the bottom of the pan. But again, it's all good. All right. I think they're good enough for me. Everybody is different on that. So I'm just going to take a little bit here. It's still cooking, but I turned off the heat, and the rest of that can cook a little bit more. I'll put the lid back on. So here we go. Turn it around here. Somehow this gets lost in translation and may not look as good to you as it does to me, because when I'm looking at the picture here, the fillets look much lighter than they do. But from my perspective, these fillets are nicely golden brown, and you can see the white catfish in there. It's perfectly cooked. Um, When you eat it, the cornmeal provides a nice tender crunch. And just the right amount of seasoning makes them, you don't want so much that the catfish doesn't have its own flavor, but it's really enhanced by the spices. And then the collard greens are delicious too. They better be anyway. They always are. Mm. They're kind of like al dente. And if you wanted them less so, you would just cook them longer. So there you go. Catfish and collard greens with bacon. I hope you try it and enjoy.